Hare Krishna, Raju Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Samyukta Mataji, Deepa Mataji, Lavish
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam.
Dhanavad Pranam, all Guru Shishila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Yeah, I'm start Jidvan Prabhu. So, Prabhu, it's Jadvan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. One need only chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Everyone engaged in the practice of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will be completely cleansed from the core of his heart and be saved from the cycle of birth and death. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.1 Srila Prabhupada.
This is purport, Prabhu. This is in the purport. Did you remembering that verse? One need only chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This line. Did you remember, Prabhu? Raju Prabhu. One need only. Yes, Hare Nama. Hare Nama. Hare Nama Iva Kevalam.
Kalau nasteva kalai
nasteva
katiranyatu.
అరిగిపోయిన టేప్ రికార్డ్ లాగా మనం ఎప్పుడు డిసైడ్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం because so much potency in that verse that Prabhupada, the great pure devotee of the Lord and Vaishnava Acharya, is saying this. That is the only way, chanting the holy names of the Lord. And 99% of our progress depends on how attentively, focusedly, how we are taking up this chanting the holy names of the Lord. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Kinchan Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam. Let us begin with Mangalacharana prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are in from Srimad Bhagavad Gita from 5th chapter. 5th chapter entitled is anybody remember 5th chapter title?
Karma
No,
Yoga.
no look. Mataji?
No. What is that? Karma Yoga. Nishkama Karma Yoga, I think.
Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness. Title. I'm asking about title. Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. Yes. Yeah, we stopped up to 11th verse. We'll read from today, from 12th verse. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Purport. The difference between a person in Krishna consciousness and a person in bodily consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person, and he has no anxiety over the results of his work. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the result of an activity is explained as being one's functioning in the conception of duality. That is, without knowledge of the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy. And Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane. They are transcendental and have no material effect. One is therefore filled with peace in Krishna consciousness, but one who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization that there is no existence besides Krishna is the platform of peace and fearlessness. A very important statement. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization that there is no existence beyond Krishna is the platform of peace and fearlessness. Complete dependence on Lord's mercy. That's what it is. Yeah. Depend on Krishna. We usually say yes. Yeah. Mata, you can start.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah, Mata.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. The embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. The activities of the body or the figurative city of the body are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond these conditions if he so desires. Owing only to the forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of 9 gates. The 9 gates are mentioned as follows. Navatvare pure dehi hamso lelayate bahi vashi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of a living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, the anus, and the genitals. The living entity in his conditioned stage identifies himself with the body, but when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.18. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and the inner activities of the material body. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mata. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Samyukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation prepared by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Purport: the living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one of the energies or nature of the Supreme Lord, but is distinct from matter, which is another nature called inferior of the Lord. Somehow, the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with material nature since time immemorial. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of the body, he appears to be the master of it, but actually he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. He is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence. The waves of the oceans are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, Praveen Prabhu, Aryan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Purport. The Sanskrit word Vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself. Undisturbed by sinful or pious activities, he does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity by superior nature, full of knowledge, nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. Because a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with a circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of living entity as Paramatma, or the super soul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul. As one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it, this by near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare Esa u hai eva sadhu karma karayati tam yam ebhyo lokebhyo unisate esa u eva sadhu karma karayati yam atho ninisate. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in pious activities so that he may go to hell. Kaushitaki Upanishad 3.8. Ajno jantur anisho yam atmana sukha dukha yo ishvara parito gachet sarvagam vasva abram evacha. The living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell, as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. Vedanta Sutras 2.1.34 also confirms this. Vaismaya narghirni na sapeksatvat tatha hi darshyati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for reading. Prabhu. Nice. 516. Yes, Prabhu. Praveen Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. When, however, one is entangled with the knowledge by enlightened. Sorry. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Purport. Those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Jnanaha Palvena Jnana Ganihe Sarva Karmani and Nahi Jnanena sadarsham. No, sadarsham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is the knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when when one surrenders unto Krishna, as is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse. Bahunam jannam ante jnanvan mam prabhadyante. After passing through many verses, when one perfects in knowledge, surrenders unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he un, unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience or Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all nescience, as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body, but is under but is transcendental to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the super soul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna consciousness spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in the 2nd chapter 2.12 that every living being is individual and that the Lord also is individual. They were all individuals in the past. They are individuals at present and they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in the darkness, but in a day when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Lavish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
No problem.
From however say, oh yeah,
17.
he can. Sorry Prabhuji, from where I have to read?
17 from this one. Translation. Translation purpose. 17 verse.
When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refugee are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgiving through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Purpose. The Supreme Transcendental Truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a version of all Vedic literature. Para Tattva means the Supreme Reality, who is understood by the knowers of the Supreme as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. Bhagwan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. The Lord says, Matta Parantara Nanyat Kinchit Astit Dhananjaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Brahmano hi pratishthanam, pratisthaham. Therefore, in all ways, Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the supreme reality, one whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refugee are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneously identity and individuality in Krishna, and equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Akinjan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. And translation prepared by S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You humble sages, by virtue of the true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog-eater outcast. The Krishna consciousness person does not make any distinction between the species or caste. The Brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species. But these differences of the body are meaningless from the viewpoint of learned transcendentalists. This is due to the relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portions as Paramatma, he is present in everyone's heart. Such a understanding of Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned, in different castes are different species of life. The Lord is equally kind to everyone because he treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains himself as Paramatma regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as a Paramatma is present, present both in the outcast and in the Brahmana. Although the body of the Brahmana and that of the outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the super soul within the body are the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in particular body, whereas the whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and the super soul are that they are both consciousness, eternal and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas super soul is conscious of all bodies. The super soul is present in all the bodies without distinction.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Raju Prabhu. Actually, in the previous verse, it's a important words. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Yeah. That is the mindful sages by virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision. A learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and an outcast. There is no difference. They see equal vision. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. You can read.
A translation. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Purport. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material condition, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with his body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through relation of self, he is liberated from the conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or heart rate. Similarly, When a living entity is without attraction or hatred, is also become flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes. You can read this one also, Prabhu. 520.
520. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is bewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in the transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of the self-realization person are given here. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but he is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament he is losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthita buddhi, sthira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking his gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as the permanent and disregard this existence, the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the situation of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well, without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. Thus, is called Brahman relation or self-relation. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. One question. You all know is a constitutional position. What is a constitutional position?
I am the soul.
Servant of the God.
Yeah.
Prabhu.
Yes. Jivera Swarupa.
Krishna
Krishna. Deepa Mataji, please read.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, you can read this one. 21 verse.
Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Purport. Sri Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, Yadavadhi mama cheta Krishna Padaravinde Navanavarasa Dhamani Udyatam Rantumasi Tad Avadhi Bata Nari Sangame Smaryamane Bhavati Mukha Vikara Sushtu Nishti Panam Cha. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and the materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Prabhupada asks in other purports. Spiritual relation, sense gratification go ill together. It cannot fit. That means bodily concept of life, sense gratification, selfishly working to satisfy our senses, all comes under that category, sense gratification. Not only sex pleasure, but material desires also. Material desires which divide of Krishna. Yeah. Samyukta Mother, please read. Actually, we are almost done in there are two more verses, we can complete. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Purport. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramante yogino nante, satyanande chit atmani, iti rama padanesho, param brahma hi dhyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also 5.5.1, it is said, Nayam deho deha bhajam loke kashtam kaman arhate vid bhujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena satvam sudhyed yashmat brahma saukyamtva anantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure. While in this human form of life, such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. This is a very profound statement. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Very good. Let me see. 23 and 24. 24 is the last verse, I think. 20,
Prabhuji, there are 29.
29. So they will read tomorrow then. We will read tomorrow. Is that okay? Prabhuji's message. Okay, we'll read tomorrow, and again we'll read these translations. And if we get time, we will do some guides.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for your presence, and it will help me actually while reading with all of you for my benefit. Of course, you are also getting benefited. And thank you so much for every day coming and regularly and giving a chance to read Srila Prabhupada translations and purports.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Deepa Mataji, one, sorry Mataji, regarding that Bhagavat Marathon, so when it is, Mataji, the reading time?
Actually, there is no specific time, Prabhuji, because it is a weekly initiative. It is basically a self-study initiative.
Okay.
People can form groups and they can study. And at the end of the week, on Sunday, every night, 8 to 9, they will have a class. So the target is to complete one chapter every week. And at the end of the week, that one chapter may some important verses, some big speaker will come and speak about that particular chapter or few verses of it.
So it's all about self-study, Mataji.
Study.
Okay.
And most of the people are actually forming groups, because we are seeing here also, if we are reading together, then we can progress very quickly. But if it is self-study, then we keep and we don't finish it. So that is what it is.
Self-study also we need to push like this.
I also do not know what time to cater to it, because evening it is Bhakti Shastri, morning all these, then I have 3 reading initiatives for then I have to do office work. So I also don't know.
It is good actually. It is good, Mother. You are getting this much, but it's okay. You can continue.
But
this
I
is
will
good.
definitely read something. I'll figure it out. But I think if it is with somebody, then because of the timings only, I don't know what time it will match with somebody else.
Oh, see, entire month, first 3 cantos.
No, 1 year ka marathon it is. Every
So we have to complete the entire Srimad Bhagavatam in 1 year. Huh?
No. Every week, one chapter. So they are saying that, okay, in 52 weeks, you do 52 chapters. We can't complete the Bhagavatam with you, but we'll get you into the habit. And then you continue from there.
Okay.
What they are saying.
So at the end, we have to do in lesson 7 chapters for that week, and that 7 chapters will be discussed at the end of the week. Is
Not
that like
One chapter, Prabhuji, one chapter only.
one chapter of Bhagavatam for
Yeah.
a week? For a week.
Yeah, one chapter per week,
7
Prabhuji.
chapter is impossible, 7 chapters. I think you have to dedicate whole day, then only you can do 7 chapters.
No. I don't know about it. I'm just asking.
Yeah. It is one chapter.
Okay.
And some chapters are big, no? So you will have to see based on number of pages or based on number of verses. And you can divide it into the 7 days or 6 days if people are reading only 6 days. And then on Sunday, they will have a evening session to discuss the important points of the chapter. And there will be a quiz which you can answer and reiterate your understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing that link also. I mean, you already, I think I only forwarded. Okay. Yeah, if anybody gets the time, yeah, it's better. This is also one of the good habit to.
Aditya Prabhu, he has joined it. I'm also Santosh Aditya Prabhu.
Acha. Okay.
So I'm checking with him what time he is doing it.
Okay. Nice, Mother. Yes. We'll see if I get time. I'll try to be there.
Yes.
Right. Sure.
I will also try to join, Mataji.
Yeah, what time shall we do, Prabhuji, if that is the case? I mean, what time usually, how does your work schedule?
Mother, we have Bhakti Shastri classes from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6:30 to 8:30.
Yes.
That is unavoidable. We have to be there.
Yes.
And every day we are reading this half an hour reading activity. Morning 8 to 8:30.
How is night like?
Afternoon. See, we'll see afternoon. Afternoon during lunchtime or in our office. Just we'll see how it works.
Let's try something like 1 o'clock because I also have meetings and my meetings are like there is no time padu for them. It is. But if we have a fixed schedule, then I will not take meetings during that schedule. Like today, I have a meeting at 2 o'clock, and my reading initiatives complete at 11:30. So it's like that. In between, there is time, so we can do it. And if we fix that time, like your lunchtime, like you're saying, but you should also allocate some time for your real lunch, and then. We can if every day we are doing at that time, then I'll keep that time separate.
I'll ask Santosh Aditya Prabhu and whoever there in that group, I will check. And then we'll see, we'll read together, like create a new Zoom link and regularly read. We'll see. I'll let you know. Raju Prabhu, we'll see how it works.
Okay.
In the meantime, I'll first see how many pages are there in the first chapter to get an idea, and how many pages we need to do every day. How is it like doable or not? So I'll share in the meantime. I'll share with you in our Veda reading group, and I'll share it with Santosh Aditya Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji, and this is for we including sloka also, versa also.
So, yeah. Yes.
Including versa.
Yes.
Okay.
Complete. We read the verse, we have to read the transliteration also, translation, and then purport.
That is said. They said that likewise.
Yeah, yesterday there was a introductory. I'll share that in that. I'll share the YouTube link by Veda Varsity, and you can check it out.
Yeah, sure, Mata. We'll see.
Okay, Prabhuji. Let me.
Thank you so much.
So let me know.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji Mataji. Vanchapal Patarubhesta Krupasindhu Devacham Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnava ki jai. Srila Prabhupada translated ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Happy Krishna Conscious Day. See you all tomorrow.